Good afternoon, good evening, and a very, very good morning to you out there on the internet. It's just me today, some more one-on-one quality time. I do love these, whether that's because I love the sound of my own voice too much, or I love an opportunity to just one-on-one connect with you all, is to be determined. So today, it's a Sunday. I woke up kind of early, so the good morning part of the intro is especially relevant. And I was walking for my Greg's latte, as I often do. I've just finished it. And I'm always trying to think of ideas for the podcast. And I was like, well, what if... It just kind of came to me, like I was thinking about the channel. And I was like, oh, it'd be cool to maybe explain to you lot, who maybe haven't been here for, 16 years, the history, the full and complete kind of history of TPD TV, and, break it down and kind of explain to you where it came from, where it started, this, that, and the other, and just try and kind of explain the journey that we've been on as a channel, that I've been on as a creator, and I thought that kind of might be interesting. So I've got my laptop here, and I've gone through and I've kind of split the history of the channel into like eras. And the first era that I want to talk about is, I've called it the land before time. So this is going to be like a, not super conclusive, but a rundown of the history of the channel, key moments of the channel, and a little bit of background as to where we were at the time, why we were doing what we were doing at the time, and things like that. So era number one, the land before time. So this is a section about my time creating way before YouTube was even a concept. The first creative kind of media thing that I ever did was when I was like literally a child, and I had a Sony tape recorder, and it was for like babies. It was called My First Sony. Really, really cool piece of kit. And it was basically a tape deck with a microphone on it. And this is my earliest memory of trying to create some media for consumption. Because I used to host my own radio show on this thing, and I would record it onto a cassette tape and into Splice. I guess I couldn't really put songs in there because it was a single tape deck. But I would basically host a fictional radio show. And then I guess like my mum might listen to it, or my dad might listen to it. More than likely it would just get erased. That's my first and earliest memory of creating something. You could call it the world's first podcast. You could say I'm a bit of a pioneer. Though I'm sure many kids with a tape deck did that exact same thing. And then we jump forward like 10 years until I'm maybe like 13. And this is now in like the 2000s, and the first kind of video that I ever remember trying to create was a South Park parody. So we had a desktop computer back in the day when you'd have like your desktop computer in the house, and it was in like one room. This happened to be in my parents' room, so it was kind of off limits for certain times. Do you know what I mean? And when we bought our computer, it's an E-Machines, one of those never obsolete ones with like 512 megabytes of storage. And it came as like a family starter pack bundle with like a printer, and it came with a digital camera, like a VGA 0.3 megapixel digital stills camera. And I must have been watching some South Park at the time behind my parents' back. And I remember trying to replicate and create my own South Park stop motion, because that's how Matt and Trey made the first like 3 South Park installments with stop motion photography. So I got some craft paper and I cut out and I made like a Kyle and a Stan, and I made their different voice mouth shapes to try and sync up with some voice lines that I was going to record. And I did all that and I shot the stills, and it probably looked atrocious and inconsistent across the stills. And then I put the stills into the only video editing software that I knew that existed, which was Windows Movie Maker on Windows XP. Now, to my surprise, on Windows Movie Maker on Windows XP, there was like a limit as to how long an image could run in your video timeline. And with something like South Park, you know, stop motion, you really need like the image to change like maybe at worst like twice a second, and at best like maybe 4 times a second. And Windows Movie Maker's minimum clip length was like maybe a second. So that project fell flat after I put all that effort in to make all the stuff, because I couldn't make a convincing motion illusion with stop motion, because the clip length wasn't it wasn't short enough. So I tried some more stop motion stuff. I remember there's a video I made of 2 planes crashing into each other, and one of them like splitting in half and falling to its death. And one airline was called Freebird Airlines, and the other one was called Stairway to Heaven Airlines, because I'd invented this rivalry in my head that like of the long classic rock songs, there's only one good one, and it's Freebird. And if you like Stairway to Heaven, then you're wrong. So Freebird came out on top. If I can, I'm going to try and put some supplementary footage over this podcast. We never really edit the podcast. I never really do that, but I think that might be interesting. And then there was another stop motion that I made of like a police car. And these were like in the early to mid 2000s. Then you fast forward to maybe 2007, and we're actually filming like full motion video. Now this is filmed on our camera phones at the time, which is in this instance was a Sony Ericsson K750. Some of you might know that same phone as a W810 or W810i, which is a Walkman phone, but K750 was like the non-Walkman version of that same phone. And the first like bit of full motion video of us in any capacity that was put out there on the internet was us doing some jackass stunts. Obviously, like every lad like us at the time, we were influenced by Viva La Bam and Jackass. And we hosted a Jackass recreation, and it was me and some friends from school, and I had tactically avoided doing any of the stunts, and there was someone else doing all of the stunts, and the stunts were all kind of similar. We stole a shopping trolley from the Sainsbury's, or maybe we found it already stolen, I can't remember, and someone got in the trolley was then pushed down a hill, and it was filmed. And even back then we were experimenting with like multi-angles. Like I remember our mate Lewis was stood on like one other angle. I was like lead camera following the trolley. And I think even Raz was involved shooting on his Nokia, and he might have been the third camera. And then it was my job to cut that together. And we did. I did cut that together. And I remember uploading it to YouTube, and it must have been in 2007 that. So that's the earliest, and it's not there anymore, but that's the earliest remnants of anything of us that hit the internet, video-wise at least. And I remember cutting it together in Movie Maker, and it was actually so early, it was before my voice had even broke. So I've got a really kind of Mickey Mouse-esque voice. And one thing I remember about that edit was one of the guys in the crew was insistent, like, Rob, when you edit this, you need to use Queen's Hammer to Fall, the song by Queen, as the credits song. I mean, this video didn't need credits, but back then, you know, in the Movie Maker era, you would add credits, produced by, edited by, directed by, soundtrack, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, that's where I first heard that song. And every time I hear that song, it reminds me of those early days of like guerrilla-ass filmmaking on the golf course in Middleton in Leeds. And yeah, and using copyrighted material in our earliest of videos. So this is not a new thing. The last thing in this era is something that I have retrospectively titled The Video Project That Never Was. And this was basically a load of clips that never amounted to anything. And I cut them together and released them as The Video Project That Never Was back in like 2007, because I couldn't realize any of them as a full project. But we're talking stuff like I was sat in a burnt out car, and I think it was me and Raz recreating like Pimp My Ride. And like I come back into the customs shop and the car's still burnt out, and I'm like really annoyed at Raz for not pimping it. And then there's like dumb stuff like getting a load of leaflets from a shopping centre and putting them on like car windscreen wipers, like all in the car park, and doing it to like, I distinctly remember doing it to like a Porsche Boxster, thinking like that'd be really funny. I think that was me. It might have been one of the other guys that did that. Just dumb shit. And that's kind of the end of that era then. And then we probably rode out 2008 mostly without any kind of releases. And then we step into the next era, which I call like the BC era. Like the kind of before Christ type era, like long time ago. Back then we was in late high school and in college, so 2008. And we were creating for no one, literally for no one. And one of the first videos that we made, the first video that we made with Matty Bridie in it, was called Death to the Tube. And this was shot on a Samsung G600 slide phone. Basically, me and Bridie would walk to college together each day. And we found like a giant corrugated cardboard tube, like something that you'd get like industrial like shrink wrap on. And there's a video where Bridie picks it up and he's just smashing it so that it like splits in half. And I'm shouting like, "Don't hurt the tube." And that was it. And we uploaded that, Death to the Tube. And no one watched it. Of course, it wasn't intended for anyone to watch. It was just so I could send it to like Bridie and Raz. And then, would you believe it, across the course of the year, we found 2 more corrugated tubes, and Death to the Tube became a 3-part series. There's also videos like, there's a video called Snow XXX, which is just basically like a clip of me dunking my face into some snow. We used to like go for walks at like 3 in the morning, and me and Ash Walker was going out for a walk, and it was snowing, and I dunked my face into the snow. And Ash was like, if you put XXX in your YouTube video title, it'll get a load of views because people will think it's like adult material. It didn't. And then we was in college, and I was like always having a camera in people's face in college, even without their consent, to be honest, kind of bad. And I made like this little intro. I used to use Sony Vegas at this point. And this was like the first thing I'd really made in Sony Vegas. This almost like a trailer for our college class, as if it was like a reality TV series, where it kind of introduces the characters, the people who are in my class. And these people mostly hadn't consented to be in this video. They weren't. I hadn't asked them, like, are you all right being on camera? And some of the uploads around this era were just like me putting a camera in someone's face and taking the piss out of someone. A Bridie doing the same thing. There was like a fair few of us on board, like Kieran O'Hare, Andy Daimler's a name you might remember from back in the day, and some people from college that we'd rather forget. And yeah, I made this kind of polished, I say polished, it was like my kind of highest end edit at the time, and it was a trailer for my college class, and there was a guy called Robin in the class, and he was really interesting lad. He was sound as fuck, but he was very quirky, and he was very like of the 4chan era. And so was I. I used to spend a lot of time on 4chan, but I didn't really let that bleed too much into the real world, and he did. And it was great to kind of meet someone that also knew what like a meme was back in 2008 and stuff like that. Anyway, he was a real nerd, as you can imagine, and he was fast at typing. And I recorded him typing, and I uploaded it to YouTube, and I said like Guinness World Records fastest typer. And this video blew up. This was on an old channel. And when I say blew up, I mean it got like maybe 20,000 views, which was a hell of a lot in 2008. And YouTube used to have this thing. It used to be a lot more fun, did YouTube? And it used to have these things called like awards, I think. Or maybe it was like medals. And like depending on your channel category or your video category, because you would choose like a category of like, what is this video? Is it entertainment? Is it news? Is it education? You would get like a medal on the video saying like, this is like the #1 video in this category this week. And this video got one of those medals. It was like the #1 in whatever category it was for that day. And that was really cool. And then my channel was like the #5 of comedy that week in the UK or something. But then tragedy struck because Guinness filed a dispute with this video and had the channel terminated. No second chance. You know, it was just straight up terminated. And I tried to overcome this termination, because all the footage that we'd uploaded to that channel was then lost. You know, we didn't have backups back then. But lo and behold, it was gone, and I was devastated, because even back then, this channel with probably 80 subscribers was a big part of my life, and it had gone. So then I kind of fell out of love with it for a little bit, and I stopped creating for maybe 6 months, and now it's time for me to open my Tropicana and have a drink. Not sponsored, but I absolutely would take a sponsor from Tropicana. So in 2009, we made a new channel. I made a new channel called Master of Buckets. This was a combination name of the name of the channel that had just been terminated, that had bucket in the name, and Master of Puppets. And this was when we got serious. This was when we were filmmaking and creating for an audience. And the first video that I made on this channel was a rant. Now, rants were popular back then. People used to upload like rant videos. And my first rant video was something called "The Internet is Boring." And it's basically me complaining to my webcam that the internet's just boring. There's naught to do. You go on MySpace, go on Facebook, go on forums, go on YouTube. I don't really know what the point was. It didn't really do very well, because the internet's not boring. It's probably the least boring thing in the world. And then we made a video called "The Prophecy of Pete Wentz," which is the second oldest upload on the channel after "The Internet is Boring," and is still it's the oldest still publicly available video on the channel. And this video has our signature Master of Buckets intro with the Master of Puppets like riff over it. And this was a dumb little sketch. And this is basically what this era of the new channel era was. It was like sketches in the hopes that people watch them. We made a series called Channel Surfing, which was And we'd shoot all these in the middle of the night at Raz's house or at Ash's house. My parents were not as chill as like Raz or Ash's parents. And they were a bit more strict, and they weren't really happy with us pissing about in the house on a night, which I think is fair. But Raz's mum in particular, we'd always be at Raz's and we'd always be filming stuff. And we did this series called Channel Surfing. And again, the aim of the game here was to create, to be seen. Like, we're living in the sketches and skits era of YouTube, just before 2010. And this series, Channel Surfing, the concept was, it's us as ourselves, and we're like, what's on TV? And we start surfing through the channels, and then it cuts to like us playing characters on like TV show parodies. So we'd be like doing like Ready Steady Cook, and it'd be like funny version, and then it'd cut back to us in the living room, and we'd be like, this is boring, change the channel. And then it'd cut to like, there was this recurring character that I played on like a quiz show, and it was a different quiz show each time. And this will tell you how dated this content is, because this character that I played was called Mrs. Hussein, and it was basically just me with my hood up, just affecting an accent, and it was just simply just not funny, and it was very of the time. And the funny thing with Mrs. Hussein was she would lose her temper and get angry at the host when she was answering the questions wrong, and then it would like cut as if like she was gonna like smack the host or something, and then that would be the end of each video. And that was a 3-part series, and you know, it was fun making those, but very of its time, and not really even funny back then, and certainly not funny now. And then another video of this era, this kind of new channel era, as the new channel's getting its footing, if you can call it that. We made a video as part of a Shane Dawson competition. Now, this is the landscape of YouTube. If you know anything about Shane Dawson, you know how insanely problematic Shane's content is and was. He was instrumental in perpetuating so many negative stereotypes about so many like different cultures. If you look at like his characters, where he would take people of different ethnicities, different sexual orientations, different backgrounds, and caricature them in a way that was so offensive and so damaging. But at the time, like, that was, embarrassingly, that was the norm, and YouTube pushed that. He was one of the biggest creators. He was getting all the kind of like brand deals before brand deals were a thing, and it took a long time for everyone to switch on and realize, what the fuck is this guy doing? But we entered a competition that he was running to win a camera called a Sanyo Zakti, which was like a handheld like vlogging camera, because at this time we were still shooting on we were shooting on something called a Creative Vado, which was like a shitty little vlogging camera, but we wanted a better one. So the video idea was like, show what you would do with a Sanyo Zakti. And what I remember from this video was like, here's me playing the guitar shot on my normal camera, and I'm not very good at playing the guitar in this shot. And then here's me playing the guitar shot on my Sanyo Zakti, and I'm like playing the Freebird solo like note perfect. And this is before I knew how to play the Freebird solo, which I do know how to play now. And yeah, you know, it was just kind of dumb shit like that, and we didn't win the competition, blah, 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 blah. This era was very cringe and very of its time, and instrumental in learning different things. The gripes of Sony Vegas. I was working on a laptop at this point, a Dell with an Intel Core i7, so a good one at the time, but it definitely had integrated graphics, and it used to take hours to render a 3-minute video. And then we went to Leeds Fest in 2009, and we didn't film any of that. Fast forward to 2010, And I did film Leeds Festival, and so did Raz. And this went up on our channels. Raz didn't film 2010. I filmed 2010, and that went up on my channel as a 5-part series. And we did download as well. And it went up, they each went up as a 5-part series, day 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And they were terrible, but that was our first entry into festivals. And the way that the video was done was I'd upload all 5 parts and then upload a 6th video, which was like the landing page almost. And it'd be like, start here, Leeds Fest 2010. And on that video, it was just a still image frame. And it was like day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, whatever. And you used to have this feature on YouTube called annotations, where you could click something on a video and it would take you to another video. And basically I'd set that kind of landing page up with annotations, and you'd start there, you'd click for day 1, you'd click for day 2 and watch it like that. And no one watched it, of course. In this era as well, A Day in the Life is born. And we're kind of trading off a day in the life with like a sketch, then a day in the life, then maybe another sketch, and 2 more day in the lives. And this was just, and the first a day in the life is still up on the channel. It's called Let Me Taste Your Gallbladder. A Day in the Life episode 1. And it starts with me and Danny in my bedroom listening to Pantera. And it ends in Raz's bedroom, as so many nights did. And then we ran A Day in the Life for about 30 episodes until late 2010. We were just vlogging whatever we were doing, you know, our first nights out, our 18th birthdays. And this is when we started to pick up our very first kind of audience, if you will. There's 2 guys, and I still remember their names to this day, Andy and Dave. And I remember their surnames, but I'm not here to out them. And they were like our first 2 fans, as in the first people that would watch the videos and wait for the next one and engage with the next one. And we even got them to like submit like a video intro themselves. And they are the first 2 fans of what would become TPD TV. And I'll never forget either of you. And I saw Andy, because I got him on Facebook. I saw Andy in Leeds recently, but I was on a train and he wasn't. And I'm sure you've forgotten all about us, Andy and Dave, but I'll never forget you. And we ran A Day in the Life for 30 episodes, and then I went to uni. And at uni, it's a bit more difficult. And this is when Raz really started doing his stuff. And that's Raz's journey to talk about. And if you want Raz to come on and talk about his creative journey, let me know. And we'd love to get him on and he can talk a bit about that. But I didn't want to be at uni and like, you know, uni's almost an opportunity to slightly reinvent myself. And I didn't want to be like this nerdy guy with a camera necessarily. I still rocked up to uni with my guitars and my Guitar Hero and my fucking nerdy outfits and stuff. You know, I wasn't exactly trying to be like Steve Stifler at uni. But I didn't really want to say like, oh, I make videos on YouTube. Anyway, it eventually came up that I made videos on YouTube, and the guys kind of loved that. And there was 3 friends, 2 guys called Dave and a guy called Chris Polton. And these 3 and me, the 4 of us, are self-named as the VBC. This is our crew name. As you see, each crew kind of has a name. And these guys, to this day, we have a bond that is unlike any other bond. It's not necessarily stronger or weaker than any other bond, but it is certainly unique. And I love these boys to this day. And hopefully in the next few months, we'll be having our annual weekend together. And these guys were up for like doing some of the vlogging. So A Day in the Life came back for a couple of episodes with them in it. But then we wanted to create our own series. And we made a series called Will It Slice. And this was the primary focus of the channel. And inspired by Will It Blend, it was basically, here's an item. Can I slice it in half with a knife? But Dave, under the character Throwboy Dave, would throw the item to me and I would like swing at it with the knife like it's a baseball. And we'd do this in our university kitchen. And this was like such a passion project. And we loved this, and it gained a cult following within like Dave's group of friends. Like 30 of Dave's friends would watch this every week. I guess they'd probably never... My friends were used to me making stuff and uploading stuff, and often they were in it. Dave's friends had never even thought about that. So the majority of people that were tuning into Will It Slice were like Dave's friends, Chris's friends, because Chris was filming it, and then some loose people around the Manchester metropolitan area. We're talking like these videos were getting hundreds of views, you know, not anything more than that. But the first time I ever got recognised off the internet was from Will It Slice, and it's because we went around the entire uni campus advertising it with stickers, labels that we'd made. Watch Will It Slice, youtube.com/ whatever it was. And we put these stickers up everywhere, and someone had obviously seen that and watched it. And we kept Will It Slice going for 2 years across 4 seasons, much to the dismay of our other flatmates, because it involved significant destruction of our living area. We would be throwing bags of flour, bags of virgin olive oil, bottles, loose pigs' trotters, fucking petrified duck eggs from Japan. And I still hope that one day we can do a Will It Slice reunion. And I'd love to do that. But it ain't going to be in my flat, that's for sure. And Will It Slice and A Day in the Life Will It Slice kind of replaced A Day in the Life in terms of my creative endeavour for the 2 years I was at uni. Aside from one thing. Now, me and Cleesby were always incredibly inspired by Ricky Gervais. And Ricky Gervais's contribution to comedy is significant, to say the least. But now, when I look at Ricky Gervais, I kind of cringe a bit. Afterlife was shit. Controversy for controversy's sake in some stuff. And his latest few stand-ups have been really tame. But back in the day, Gervais was the man. And The Office and Extras and XFM really shaped us and shaped our comedy. And we always wanted to write a sitcom. So in 2011, we wrote a sitcom called Housemates, and we wrote the pilot episode with the intention of submitting it to the BBC. And we wrote a script, and I remember I remember us writing this script in a proper script writing software called First Draft. And it was basically, the concept was that your housemates being put in accommodation together at uni, and you just don't gel. You're just like opposites. So there was me and Cleesby. I was like the reserved, I was kind of like the sensible one, but not like a nerd, or maybe a bit like a nerd, but I was like sensible and straight shooting. Our mate Dave was like stupid and naive. And then Cleesby was like the brash kind of Stifler kind of jock character. And we wrote and shot a pilot for this, which is now not publicly available to watch, but I might sling it on the Patreon if you're interested. But you can imagine why it's not available now, which is a shame. And it was basically so obviously inspired by The Office. And it's like, we move in, there's some awkwardness. The laziest like scene transition of like, they did it in The Office where there would be like a scene, and then there's like a shot of like a printer like with paper coming out, and that's like the kind of transition to get you to the other scene. and I copied that in the edit, and it works in the office really well, but I really think it doesn't work when it's so clearly ripped off. Kind of like what Chicken Shop Date does. That's part of the reason I just can't get on with Chicken Shop Date, though I do really rate the lass that hosts it. And fun fact, we had an opportunity to work with her actually, and it just wasn't a very good idea for us to do that. But you know, they do it on there, and it's like, I just think it's a bit lazy. And this Housemates is full of that. And yeah, it's just this dumb little sitcom, and we submitted it to the BBC, and we wrote a second episode. And the book that I was jotting the scripts and ideas down in, I've still got that in my desk drawer right now, and I still use that from time to time to jot notes down in. It's a Volkswagen Golf themed notebook. And yeah, this was kind of our serious entry into being considered like filmmakers and producers, if you will. God, the Tropicana multivitamin is good. I dropped out of uni and we picked up A Day in the Life again. And this is now the era of like trying to actually make a YouTube channel where people want to watch us as people. So we were trying to... The content wasn't leading us, but we were definitely mindful of like, what can we do that will make a good video? And it was just do stuff like go to the next city, go for a drive. But also I was doing this weird thing where I was doing guitar live streams on the main channel, or what is now the main channel. I would just sit in my bedroom and just play like Biffy Clyro's Only Revolutions in full on my guitar. And I admire that because I wouldn't have the confidence to do that now because I'm a very self-conscious guitar player. But yeah, I would just do that. Like, this is the thing with the channel. It's like, okay, here's some videos of us doing Will It Slice. Now here's a vlog. Now here's a skit. Now here's a sitcom. Now here's a guitar. Like, what the fuck where was the cohesion? But something this summer happened that changed the trajectory of the channel forever. And we didn't know it at the time, and we wouldn't know it for a few years. And this was going to Leeds Fest in 2014. And we made Leeds Fest Best Camp 2014 an accidental title. The title that I accidentally rendered the video as and didn't rename it when I uploaded it to YouTube. And that sat there and gained some views. Maybe 6,000 views over the course of a year. And we'll leave that and we'll come back to that in a sec. So then we kind of level up a bit. And I get a MacBook Pro to make my videos on. And I got this MacBook Pro. I'd wanted a Mac since I was a kid. I'd idolized Steve Jobs and Apple. And I got this Mac, and it was £1,699. It was a 15-inch Retina MacBook Pro with integrated graphics. And my girlfriend at the time, Jess, got it for me on a credit agreement, and I was paying her back because my credit wasn't good enough. And I also got a GoPro Hero 4 Silver, which I've still got, and that became our main camera. And A Day in the Lives were made on that. At this point, Danny comes back from the RAF, and Danny touts this as like the hero's return of the channel. When the channel started getting good was when he came back, and he's joking about that. But this was when the quality of the content improved, my editing improved, the narrative of the video improved. And we do stuff like, we made a series called 45 Things to Do in Leeds. We were trying to gain an audience. We were trying to make YouTube work. YouTube was firmly a thing now that people could do, and we were trying to do it. 45 Things to Do in Leeds was a terrible and niche series, and it was exactly what it says on the tin. There is a website called Leeds List, and it made a list called 45 Things to Do in Leeds, and I took that list and started making it into a video series. And it was stuff like go to Slam Dunk Festival, go to Roundy Park, go to Tropical World. If you're from Leeds, you know these things are kind of boring. And that series was pretty dead. Then we step into what I call the iconic era. These are some of the most iconic videos in our history and very old and underrated. We're talking stuff like, we're in like 2015 now, and we're talking stuff like the Scotland trip where me and Bridie went up in the Freelander and it broke down. The video where Bridie pissed on the floor. The video where we go to Manchester and Mary's being really annoying. Our first ever holiday video. Our first ever festival shopping video. Our Leeds Fest Best Camp 2015 video. Off the back of our 2014 video, which got a few thousand views at the time, we got recognised. And that was the second time we ever got recognised. And it was at Leeds Fest 2015 by a gentleman called Phil. And I'll never forget you, Phil. And he'd seen the previous video, and we did, download in 2016, and we decided to do our first ever merch because there was maybe 1,500 subscribers at this point, and these subscribers were loyal, and they were tuning in, and we did our first ever merch, and it was 50 t-shirts that I ordered with my personal money, of course, and we gave them away to our audience for free. There was a stipulation of, if you've watched to the end, it says at the end, like, send me an email and I will send you a free t-shirt. And we did send out all 50 of them, and they were all hand numbered. They had a little out of 100 on there, and I would fill in the 1 out of 100, but the 100 was printed and I would handwrite the other. But we only did 50 of them. And I would love to know if anyone out there's got one of them. Our first merch was not only free, but at a loss to me. And I wasn't earning a lot at the time. I've never really earned a lot. And I was just that thankful for our audience that I wanted to give them something for free. And this is the time where we started doing the festival guides, like the what to take to Leeds. And a lot of the guys now on TikTok, a lot of the festival guys, it's funny how cyclical all this is, because I'm not saying we invented this category, but we did it on YouTube in a totally different format. And now that same thing does really well in a real condensed format on a platform that didn't even exist. And it makes you wonder in 10 years time, what's that going to look like? And I think we are going to enter the TikTok place and bring our expertise to that now and see if that works for growing as a little TikTok following, I suppose. But this was a cool era. I was working at Game and at PC World and just making these videos whenever I could. And this is way before any TPD, before any business was set up, anything like that. It was just us still doing it for the love of it. And we were so blessed that we had an engaged audience. We then move into what I call the Fanbase era, the 2017 to 2019 era, where we started gaining a fan base and maybe got up to 5,000 subscribers. This is the time when we made Car Bants, a series that I still love to this day, and it just didn't land, but I think it was such a good concept and I loved it so much. And we launched it twice, once back then, once more recently. And it just didn't land. But it's basically a podcast in a car. And that was something really, really creative. And this era was when, we were doing stuff like going to Amsterdam. And the famous Amsterdam video came out, which gained us some audience. We were having the gig in our flat. We were moving in together, doing the moving in vlogs and stuff. We discovered the San Pellegrino, and we based our entire kind of personality off San Pellegrino. And this is when a load of the OGs came on board, and the San Pelli Squad Facebook community was born, and we were obsessed with Don Broco. We switched to iPhone. We started covering just general live music vlogs and stuff. We moved into the shit house. And then something critically important happened, because Leeds Fest had been our staple now. We're in maybe 2018, 2017. And Leeds Fest was always our hero video, our flagship video of the year. And I started teasing on Twitter that we might be going to Reading. And we absolutely weren't. But I posted a little teaser on Twitter. And it was a poster I'd made, and there was an R, the letter R, on the poster somewhere. So I put like a close-up picture, like a photo on Twitter, and I was like, big announcement tomorrow. And the R in that, I used to announce like the lineup of like who's coming to Leeds Fest with us as like a Leeds Fest person. It'd be like Rob Kellis, Ryan England, Danny White, Matty Bridie, Mary Kellis, blah, blah, blah. And this is like your Leeds Fest crew for the video. And I'd zoomed in on one of the R's, and it was getting like some engagement. Like, I can't believe these guys are going to Reading. And when I say some engagement, I mean very light engagement, because we were very small. But it did get the attention of a company called Festival Republic. And Festival Republic run Leeds Fest. And a lady called Jane got in touch, and she was like, you have our attention. Can we have a call? And on the anniversary of my dad's passing, I had a call with Festival Republic, with Jane. And she was like, look, we've seen what you're doing. We love what you're doing. We love the way you're acting at these festivals. We love how authentic it is. We don't want to work with you because it's like publicly. We don't want to make a public relationship with you. But Melvin really likes you. It's like, who's Melvin? Oh, he's the director and founder of the company. It's like, okay. Melvin we would love to get you guys and Melvin together to do like a video. So we scrambled to set up this ropey as fuck setup. And Melvin Ben came to our terrible house, used our disgusting toilet, and we filmed a video with Melvin, and we asked him a load of questions about Leeds Fest. And that was kind of our first moment of like legitimacy. And as recently as this month, I've spoke to Melvin, and I'd be lying if I said me and Melvin were best mates, but I do absolutely consider him a friend and instrumental in the TPD TV journey. And someone I respect to high heavens. And Jane is no longer with Festival Republic, but Jane's boyfriend was the one, or now perhaps fiance or partner, I don't know, was the one that found us and passed us on to Jane, who passed us on to Melvin. And I don't forget stuff like that. And I appreciate and respect, and I'm grateful to you guys. And yeah, after that, we secured Piccadilly, and we did Piccadilly, and we then had a relationship with someone in the industry for the first time. It was around this time where we did our first ever sponsor. Now, I didn't want to do Patreon. I didn't want to do a sponsor because I didn't want to sell out. But we got an offer of, I think, 300 quid from a company called icelolly.com. And they wanted to do a sponsor for us. And they were like a holiday, like travel comparison price website. And in exchange for 300 quid, we do them a sponsor segment in our shopping video for Leeds Fest. But they couldn't pay us 300 quid. It had to be something to the value of 300 quid. So we chose 2 DJI phone holder things, like gimbal things, that are truly pointless. And you shouldn't use one of them because you don't need to. And the rest of the money we chose in Tesco gift cards, which we used for our festival shop. And yeah, after that, we move into the golden era, which was when we were really kind of, the channel was like, it was always my number one priority, but other people started like really kind of putting it in their priorities as well. This was when we started going to a few more festivals, and the first festival that we did that wasn't leads or download was Transmit. And this was my first time where I really did something that I thought was wild, which was like, I had one day off from work, and it was like, right, Jake Varley's going with his mate. I'd just met this fan of the channel turned friend, Jake Varley, but we weren't like close. He was going up to Scotland to see Biffy Clyro at Transmit, and I'd imposed on his plan and decided to go with him. He already had a hotel and stuff. He had no intention of going with me, but he was more than welcome. He was more than welcoming for me to go with him. And I went and I slept on his hotel floor, and then I commuted to work the next day back from Scotland to work in retail. And that was a crazy kind of thing for me back then. And then we got our first ever accreditation, a festival that you might have heard of called 2000 Trees. And this was the first festival to publicly show us any love. And we'll always love trees for this. They accredited us before we'd ever been accredited, aside from the prior Leeds Fest where we were performing. And then another festival accredited us as well that year, which was Kendall Calling, which was the Audi A3 experience with me and Bridie. And these festivals, these first festivals that kind of extended that olive branch to us, I'll never forget them and how important they were in our journey. And that's why we still go to these festivals. And even though we've done them, we'll always show these festivals love because they looked after us and were instrumental stepping stones in our journey. And what's wild now is our first 2000 Trees video has so many fucking views. Maybe not our first one, maybe our second or third one, but one of them has like, I think like 300,000 views, which is wild considering that 2000 Trees is such a small event. But this is also the era where we went to America, we did Route 66, we did New York, we were really creating, we were shooting on the iPhones, and we were, for the first time, this was when we first started crowdsourcing footage. And I say crowdsourcing, what I mean there is everything up to this point, everything up to maybe going to America that first time in 2018, I was 100% of the camera. There was no sharing of footage. There was no sharing of that responsibility. I'd filmed everything. And then when we went to America, we decided, like, we've all got iPhones. Would it hurt if you filmed some stuff as well? And then we just deliver all the footage to me. And then we made the decision. We were hitting 100 episodes on a day in the life. And it was like, right, this channel's called at this point Rob Kellis Vlogs. And we're all putting a good amount of time into this. And now we're going to start sharing the duty of filming. So let's rebrand the channel. We're like, what the hell do we rebrand it to? And our group chat, as I mentioned, we had the VBC, which was me and the guys from uni. And each group chat had like a 3 initials crew name. And the one with all of us in was called TPD. And one day, maybe you'll find out what that truly stands for. We did say 1 million subscribers, but we're never, ever going to hit 1 million subscribers. But it's very underwhelming. But one day you might find out. So we decided to rebrand it TPD TV. And the rest is history. So we do stuff like 1975 tours, Broco tours. We go to New York. We do Route 66. And then we move into an era that I'm going to call, this is the second to last era. I'm going to call it the lockdown era. And you can imagine what's happening here. It's the lockdown. So I make a documentary as the lockdown starts. And it's just called like Lockdown Life or something. Still on the channel. And the reason I made that documentary is because I wanted to do what I've always done, which is encapsulate something for future consumption. And now is the perfect time to watch that, because at the time it was like, yeah, you're just showing us what's happening. But now when you watch that and everything's fine and that's such a distant memory, it is crazy to see that and see what the world was like in the lockdown. And we were really stuck for content in the lockdown. So we started doing live streams on the main channel. And these were an enormous success. And we would basically say, look, it's Friday night. Us and you, we're going to come on a live stream. We're going to forget about all this shit in the world. We're all going to have some drinks. You're at home. We're at home. We're going to chat shit. We might theme it. We might do Centurion. And we did about 10 weeks worth of live streams in the interest of keeping ourselves and you lot sane. And the live streams were fantastic, but they had an accidental effect on us, which we never set out for, which was they made a significant little chunk of change for us. People were donating to these live streams in the super chats, and the money was building up. And sometimes we would make like £700 on a live stream. And back then that was unheard of. This is in like 2020 for us. And I'll never forget the individuals that contributed so significantly. They'd probably be embarrassed now to be shouted out. So I won't call you out by name. I know some of you are still in this community, but trust me, and I hope you know, based on the fact that I still remember those first two fans and I still remember those people, that guy at Leeds Fest. I hope you know that I do remember you. And we were getting significant and small donations, and they were building up. And as we were doing these live streams, we were getting all of this money, and we just didn't really know how to manage it. And because where did it go? Because the AdSense never made us any money, because our videos always had copyrighted content in them. But we would maybe get like a 30 quid AdSense a month just from like pence across the hundreds of videos, and it would add up. And that would just go to me, to my bank, because Google AdSense was just set up in 2008 to link to me. Back when they used to send you it as a check. I'll never forget getting my first AdSense check in like 2010 from that Guinness World Records typing video. It was like £20. And, you know, we didn't want this money to just go to me. This money was great to be reinvested into the channel. So this is when we set up like a pseudo business. And I won't go into tons of detail about everything we did wrong, but it was a learning journey. And then we spoke to an accountant, learned how to do things right, and we set up a proper business for TPD TV. And then we made the lock download video, which was a download video in place of our yearly download video in the lockdown, where we had to kind of put on our own download festival. And that was a really fun video, and I'd recommend checking that out if you've not seen it, because it did require a lot of hard work to make it look like it wasn't a lot of hard work. So like, we would need a segment from where we're like interacting with Raz at the campsite, but it can't be seen, like we can't be like sat next to Raz because of social distancing. So Raz would film something shot on a tripod where it looks like he's sat at the campsite, find somewhere rural, sit in a camp chair, set up the tripod, film it. Then I would edit that footage to make it look like it was handheld. Oh, it was great. And it was really creative for us, and it reminded me of the days when we weren't just vlogging, but we were actually putting like creative and kind of decisions and editing into stuff. And then We did a load of commentary as well. Over the course of lockdown, we released a load of commentary videos where we were like doing like director's commentary, if you can call it that, over the festival content. And then as restrictions lifted, we hit you with the Europe trips, the TPD TV's extra large UK and Europe road trip series, a 6-part series of us going all around Europe. Something that would never have ever happened if it wasn't for the lockdown. And one of our first trips where we probably used some channel money to fund it instead of just our own pockets. And then the lockdown was, when the lockdown eased, it was like, right, we've now got an opportunity. We realize what we've missed. Let's take this YouTube thing and run with it. And let's do Sefton Park pilot. Let's do Latitude pilot. Not many people know that Latitude was a pilot, but it was. And thanks to Melvin for having us at that. Then we was like, let's do Bloodstock. And we started picking up any festival we could. And before you know it, we're in the modern era. And it's 2022. And we release our most polished video yet. The Monopoly Pub Crawl Challenge video. A video and our first main channel proper video with a sponsor. $300 from Manscaped. Nice one. That'll cover the cost of our National Express down to London and back. And then we went to Coachella. I'd decided, look, I'm putting a lot of effort into this channel. And I'm working in my professional career at Apple. And now we're after the lockdown. It's time for me to make a decision on whether or not I keep putting 100% of my free time into this channel, or whether I treat myself to free time to focus on boring adult stuff. What's we need, and I was like, let's put all our eggs in a basket with Coachella. And something I love about the guys, and I really appreciate, is for better or worse, they trust me. And when I come up with an idea and I say, I think this is the one, they trust me. With Burning Man, I was like, guys, we're going to do it. And they're just like, we've got faith that that's a good idea. Same with Japan, though. We all obviously wanted to go to Japan. It's like, right, I'm now saying, let's do it. And hopefully with Australia, it will be the same. But this was one of them where it was like, let's go to Coachella, the four of us, me, Danny, Raz, and Bridie. And some of the money that we still had in the channel pot after buying the podcast equipment and stuff from these live streams in lockdown where we was earning, we used some of that money, the last bits of that money, because we'd spent quite a lot on the microphones. We'd maybe earned about $4,000 to $5,000 over the lockdown in like revenue from YouTube, and that was unheard of at the time. We couldn't believe it, and we bought the mixing desk, the microphones, a load of other channel stuff. I can't remember what else, but we probably had about $2,000 left. Let me see if I can remember. I think I've got a note of like what we were buying. Yeah, so we bought the A10 Mini, we bought the headphones, we bought the XLR cables, we bought stuff like Festival Shop on it. We bought Sony camcorders to film the podcast on. We bought all the props for Download Best Camp. We bought like Cameo stuff, and we spent we had about $2,000 left, and we put that into Coachella, which obviously didn't cover anywhere near the cost of Coachella, but we'd put so much of our own money into the channel, and it was like, now we've got some channel money. Let's use what's left of it to power this Coachella thing. So the $2,000 probably paid for like half of the flights. And it was meant to be the four of us going. And then Varley was like, can I come too? And we were like, oh, we really don't have the money. But if you can like commit with your own money, then yeah, of course. And bear in mind, like when we're going out there, we're all spending our own money. Like the only thing that this kind of TPD money had made a little dent in was like the flights, or maybe, no, it was the tickets maybe. I can't remember. But basically, yeah, Jake bought his own ticket to that first Coachella, and then we realised that doesn't seem right. I made sure to reimburse him. And not that you're asking for all this detail, but it's just interesting how it works, because now we've got, you know, dare I say, quite a healthy business account, and we wouldn't, none of us would have to do that, but things were like tight back then. And yeah, we put all the rest of our money and then a lot of our personal savings into this Coachella project. And would you believe it, guys? It worked. And the rest is history. And now, well, that year, that 2022, I worked full time, as you know, while attending 18 festivals, our first Boomtown, our first of loads of things, our first Rock in Rio, Rock for People, because we started getting invites from festivals because our Coachella video had done so well. And that's when we kind of had the backing behind us to then reach out to these events and be like, look, we've proven ourselves that we are the guys. Would you have us at your event? And yeah, and then that's how we operate. And then now we're in a situation where we run somewhat of a tight ship, and everyone's got their own little responsibility, and there we go. I hope that has been a little bit interesting for you and not too rambly. Me diving through the different eras of the channel and how we accidentally ended up becoming what we are today. And it's all because of you folks, you know. The podcast does really well now. The main channel does incredibly well. And if it don't last forever, then please know how grateful I've been to have this little slice of satisfaction. And I'm so grateful that I took an interest in creativity and making that South Park thing and the stop motion thing, because I'm so proud of what we've all achieved together. Thanks for listening. I hope it's not been too self-indulgent, but it's nice to reflect, and hopefully you've enjoyed listening. I will love you and leave you, and we'll see you next week for more The View from the Afternoon. Bye-bye.